everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 11 of 86. We're getting near that halfway point. I'm nervous. I don't know what to think at this point. Fido, we got information on Fido that is mysterious, that is intriguing, and he blew up at the end of the episode. And we got this little timestamp that says we're right at the point where they're running out of their month's supply. They're clearly being attacked by something. We don't know what's going on. And what this series does that I really like about it is that it lets you know as the audience that it knows something you don't. And it's very it's not irritating in a bad way, but it's just like, it just like gives you this hunger that you want to find out more with what's going on. Because you're like, well, clearly something's happening that we don't know about. And clearly the show is going to tell us. It's just taking its sweet time to get there. So I'm excited to find out the secrets of this show, but it's making me nervous. And I'm like, come on, what we doing? So there's that. There's that. I don't know how else to describe it, but what can we do? So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this show is going to give us in terms of the answers that we will eventually get, because the mystery is definitely keeping me invested and excited, but the tension of these cliffhangers is nightmarish. So there's that. And at this episode and next week are the halfway point. So what do we do about that? So I want to say thank you to Mevelin, first of all, because they are giving me the fan translations for several episodes. I know next week they said I could watch on the streaming service, but this one is a fan translation. So thank you, Mevelin, for giving me that. I really appreciate it. And also, I want to give a special shout out to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, because they are amazing. So they help to support me to have this put on Streamable, the reaction, which is great, and all that good stuff. So a special shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Anna, to Danger Zone, to Edgar, to Loisa G, to Matthew Palfinier, to Sunspots, as well as Be Happy, to Dana, to Destiny Marie, to Eric, to Lyndon, to Edgar, to Shimoyama, as well as Trails and Translucent Men. Thank you all so much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. What else can we say? I really liked Fido last episode. I really liked Raiden. Fido is seemingly destroyed. We don't know much else. So many questions. And I am sure that this episode will either give us maybe an answer, no answers, or we're going to go see what Lena's doing. So... But I'm finally feeling better. I've been sick all week, so I thought, why not just dive right back in and see what 86 gives us? So that's what we're going to do. So we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right in and see what happens. But thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed the reaction discussion. We're going to start 86 episode 11, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and God, let's find out, I guess. Here we go, huh? What do you think I'm going to say? I immediately got off of this episode about to cry in frustration at this series. And went to the moderators and was like, why you all recommended this joyless show? and Happy was like, yes, a joyless show. That's a very apt description. What the fuck? Like, at this point, y'all are a bunch of masochists. You all are a bunch of masochists who just delight in watching people suffer. I think having me watch this damn godforsaken show. All right, I'm a little bit calmer. I had to stop that and go back and be like, okay, no, take a deep breath. You're gonna watch something happy after this. But we're not even halfway. We're not even halfway through the season. And you're telling me that, but y'all are are a bunch of masochists. If you... The moderator was like, this is a social experiment to see how much trauma you can handle week to week. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is some of y'all's favorite show? Why? I was telling the moderator, the other moderator hasn't watched this series, and they were like, glad I'm not part of this. And I'm like, you should be. But yeah, I was just like, at least with Attack on Titan, because some people were like, oh, this show's better than Attack on Titan. I'm like, I don't agree at this point. But at least with Attack on Titan and Berserk, who are two heavy series that I've been watching, at least with those series, there is like some levity. There is like a palate cleanser. There is a moment where you can catch your breath and go, and I don't know, I don't measure a series by how it's going to be the angstiest, most traumatic thing. Like, it's going to make you feel like shit. Like, I don't feel like that's a good thing with the show. I don't know. That, to me, that's not a measure of it. A measure of a good show isn't how traumatic it will make you feel or how much angst it will dump on you. It's all about balance, right? And it's about overall quality and overall, like, depth of the characters and stuff. Hell, again, we were doing fine. Like, this last episode and this episode, I was like, oh, good. We're finally getting, like, some moments with these characters. And I want to talk about that in this because I was like, oh, good. And then at the end, they're like, well, no, they're actually all dead. And I'm like, why? And why didn't Sheen kill himself? Like, if the whole point was for him to, why didn't he shoot himself? Like, if he, why go to why go to the trouble of saving your brother and letting him rest in peace by letting him not be a part of Legion anymore? Why go through that trouble of saving your brother if you were going to become part of Legion in the end? Why? Why? I don't understand. And I'm like, oh, I have to tell myself that there has to be something that, here's the thing. I know that this show is going to pull something out. It's going to pull the rug out from under me in a minute. It's going to do something. I'm assuming, I'm hoping, if this whole series is leading Lena to have to fight Sheen in Legion, and her whole thing is that she has to fight him and destroy him, and that's the whole point, then I'm going to be like, are you freaking kidding me? I've wasted all this time watching this? But I keep thinking to myself, okay, there's some kind of twist coming. There's something gonna happen. It better damn be good to make it worth my time. Because at this point, I'm like, I don't know. Because, I want to cry. And not out of like, okay, maybe we'll just talk through the episode and it will get better. Because this is my third time trying to record this discussion because I'm just so frustrated and over this just assault on our emotions. That's kind of the thing about it too. We'll get opening this episode is like I was trying to say earlier, a lot of shows, like, there has to be a balance. You can't just have just trauma. That just an overabundance of darkness does not equal quality to me. And I guess that's the problem. Is that just, and it's one of those things where we are only on episode 11. It's not like this is like a series we've been, building up towards for like 3 seasons. It's not like one of those things or like something we've been building towards. It's just, you barely know these characters, but they're all dying. So I guess enjoy. I don't know. Let's talk about the episode. So we think that we're getting a slight reprieve at the beginning because we see poor Karina. She's been like, when their juggernauts were first damaged there, and it shows them just like being attacked by Legion, and it's this thing, and Sheen is saving them all, and he's like worried about her in that moment, which there's a really good shot of Sheen like right there when she's being attacked by Legion there, and he kind of like stops and sees her, and it goes back. I want to try to get a shot of that. Like, there's a really good shot of him there. I almost had it. But I'm glad they all lived through that. I'm glad they all lived through it. That's really good. Good for them. And you realize that Fido was kind of beyond saving. He got to where they couldn't like rescue him anymore. But I was at least glad they got out of that situation, which Sheen seems very concerned that Fido was taken out, which is really sad. Again, we don't know why. We don't know why Sheen is so invested in Fido. We also know now that Fido is a special or specific one of those robots because the mechanic makes note that they took him with them. Even though there's other similar robots to Fido still around the base, that particular one was apparently important for some reason. So the mechanic's like, no, they took it with them. You're not going to find it. And she's like, oh, it wasn't a dog. It was a robot. There we go. Which I'm glad to see Lena again, although it shows her like from 2 weeks prior. Is she going to catch up? I don't know. Who knows? Also, I just get the feeling with them showing us the lyrics to the OP and Edie in this particular episode that because of that, we're going to be switching to a new core, I guess, in episode 12, which if Sheen's dead in this episode, I guess that would make sense. I don't know. I'm trying to pick apart anything I can from the OP at this point. It shows them all in a database, but I'm like, is that all of them becoming part of Legion? Is that the thing, that they all become part of Legion? Is Legion going to end up being like the hero of all this? But again, why would Sheen go through the trouble of freeing and letting his brother rest in peace by, because Ray, I'm getting my shows mixed up. Ray seemed to be like in pain when he was part of Legion and seemed to be stuck in this loop consistently, and that he couldn't get past that loop that he was stuck in while he was the shepherd for Legion. So if that is the case, then why would Sheen, if his plan was to become part of Legion anyway, then why go through all the trouble with Ray to free him if you were just going to end up becoming part of Legion yourself? Like, what's the deal? Right? I don't understand. And then, like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand what the point is. And so then, yeah, so they managed to make it past. It was a bad sign the moment that he left the tackle box with Fido with all of their tags in it. Like, he's leaving clues for her to find. Why? That is another mystery, because he left the note and stuff. They knew that she was going to come there to find them. They knew that she was going to show up, or at least they anticipated her showing up, because they left her the drawing of her as the handler with all of their faces and all their names to identify them, and left her the note. So they anticipated her showing up to find them, but at that point they thought that it would be too late and they'd already be gone. So there is the question of, okay, well, why didn't they just camp out and wait for her to find them? Right? If they knew she was going to come to the site to find the picture and stuff, then why didn't they camp out? You know, why'd they keep moving forward away from her and going into Legion territory when they knew they only had a month's supply? If they knew she was coming to find them, there's weird little things. Like, why leave the book with the note for her? What if the next group of 86, because it shows the next group of 86 showing up to fight the next battle. What if they had discovered the All's Quiet on the Western Front novel and the pictures and just went, oh, well, this is weird, and just threw it away, and she never found it? Like, that, you know, narratively, that seems weird to me. Like, why they were banking on her going there before another member of the new 86 group found the book and disposed of it. So that's taking a big gamble. I guess they didn't care. I guess if a member of the 86 found the book and the picture and stuff before she got there, if she never came and then just got rid of it, I guess they were just like, well, we tried to reach out to her and see if that was going to be a thing that happened. But it's like, it's one of those weird narrative things. Like, well, why did they... But that seems so like they were banking on her finding it, or is that just like the author is putting it there to be like, oh, she found it, one of those things. I don't know. I don't know. Be Happy was saying that something about this show isn't clicking with me, and I don't know what it is. I want to like this show. I like Attack on Titan. I like Berserk. I like all these shows that this show seems similar to, but there's just something about it just like toying with your emotions and just piling on this trauma without any reprieve. That I don't know if that's it, or if it's the hype like I talked about last episode, and it's just not meeting up with what I like about series. Because I don't know. I still don't understand. But the fact that they left behind the box, my thing is too, like, why didn't Sheen take the box with him? If I guess he picked all of their parts out of the juggernauts that were left behind, because his was the only one that was left, and he left that with Fido. But again, it seems like they're leaving bits for her to find, or for someone to find as they go. But I'm like, what? Why didn't they just find a cave, camp out for a month till she found them? Because if they knew she was coming to the camp, you would think they'd also anticipate that she'd be coming to find them as well, right? I don't know. There is something that is not being told to us, and it is very frustrating. And I told the moderators, I was like, this trauma had better be worth it. Whatever this damn reveal is, whatever they are, because we're at the halfway point in the season, and there's like 14 light novels, so it clearly goes on way beyond this. I'm like, are the other light novels about other 86, about other districts? But I don't care about them. I care about this one. So I'm like, the rewards, I'm afraid, are not going to be worth the trauma that it took us to get here. And that's what I'm hoping I'm wrong about. I am hoping that all of my frustration is going to pay off. And I'm afraid if it doesn't, I'm going to be like, I wasted my time watching this for why? So anyway, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. This series is a test of my patience. It very much is. So yeah, anyway, so they decide that they're like, and again, I think it's the whole thing where they're just like, we're not going to go much further. I guess we'll just keep going till we die and see what ends up happening. And it's like, joyless. Just joyless, right? I mean, I do appreciate the realism of it, that it's like, well, what do? We only have the supplies left. And so like Sheen's is the only one that still moves. Let's just keep taking whatever ammo and fuel we have left. We're almost out of food. I mean, we'll just keep... But my thing is, they have all of this stuff with them. All of these guns, everything with them, right? And the whole point, I would assume, is that if they find Legion and Legion corners them, the ammo is so they can kill themselves, so they don't become part of Legion. So part of the frustration is, why doesn't Sheen do that? Why didn't he shoot himself? Why did he let Legion take his head? I don't understand. Why did you do this? What was the point, right? Because he's like, okay, and so we find out that Sheen sets his perimeters so tight that it's scary, and that he doesn't have limiters on his to move. So I guess that part was weird too. I'm like, so he sets tight parameters on his juggernaut, which whatever that means, and then he doesn't have limiters. So I guess, does that mean it's just harder to handle and harder to control? How does that work? But they all seem like they can handle it and it's fine. So that's so weird to me. But yeah, and so they just take turns like piloting, and they go in shifts, and they leave the stuff behind them and just take the one thing. And then they're just going through, and then they find a cave to get in while they wait for Legion to pass. And it seems there's more and more of them. So yeah, which it does add to the anxiety and the scariness of there's just like, the Legion keep coming. They're clearly headed towards the Republic. What do we do? It's also interesting that there's all of this like just greenery and stuff here with no like other civilization. It's interesting. And he says they're getting close to their base, which I'm assuming that we are. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, we're getting close to their base. Well, what does that mean? And they get to this one town. I like there's a horse. Just a random horse. I'm glad this chooses to... I'm glad this series chooses to be nicer to its horses than Attack on Titan is, at least. And Berserk is, at least. Right? Right? So we find the Imperial City First Elementary School. Okay. I'm assuming that we get that. And we go to the school, which this whole part here, we were at the school building, and there were all like all the different there were all the different like flyers and everything, the stuff on the chalkboard that was like all the kids. We see the hair cross beetles, the trees, the flowers and everything, and it's all like in rainbow print, and none of them can read it because they don't know the language. And so that part was really interesting. And I really liked the scene with them holding the hands up. Like, that part was really good. I liked that. That I really liked. Like, Sheen's looking around at all the different drawings. There's just them practicing their calligraphy. A lot of it looked like the thing is, a lot of it looks like the exact same writing over and over again, right? Which is interesting. It's the exact same writing. But I liked the scene where Anju pretended to be the teacher and they all raised their hand. Like, that was really cute. And that sort of thing is what I feel I had been missing from the series. I was like, okay, yes, more character development, more of that, more of them like interacting with each other. Like, that part I really liked. I was like, yes, I love this. And I wanted more of it. And the show's like, no, you got 2 minutes of levity. You get 2 minutes of character development, and then we're going to toss you back in the shit again. And it's like, but why? But why? Like, we had these really cute moments. And of course, Sheen is still guarded. Sheen like takes the textbooks and the firewood and stuff and makes the fire with it. Sheen is still guarded. But it's like, well, what? How? Mm-mm. And then we see this like workbook. It says Nihanika workbook. And it says, well done. And they're all like just practicing the same letters and kanji and everything. And then the moment that Karina lifts up the damn drop, I was like, oh, I'm having Grave of the Fireflies flashbacks. Where it's literally like Grave of the Fireflies. Oh my God. And I was like, well, this is the last one, the last candy drop. It's all good. I was like, that's not a good sign. And then they're on their last tank of fuel. So I think it is the impending, like there is the impending, there is that impending moment where they're on the last part of their fuel and you're like, okay, after this, they can't go any further with the Juggernaut. There's no more fuel. They're all going to have to walk on foot. What do we do? Right? Which I don't know. I would honestly think, other than the fact, the only thing I would think walking on foot would be a better idea than being in the Juggernauts to begin with, because it sounds like the Legion can detect that, right? It sounds like that's the problem, is that they're detecting the Juggernauts. So I would think walking on foot would be good. The only problems are, one, your weapons don't work against Legion, so that sucks. But two, I feel like you could hide better if you're on foot. The only thing that sucks is that your weapons don't work if you are cornered and you have to get your own food. I mean, those are the big problems, and they are major problems, but I don't know. They seem to be doing fine when they hide out in caves. The Legion don't seem to bother them, so I'm like, what? I don't know. I guess if a scout or something found you, then that would be a problem. So yeah, and then they reach the top of this little hill that they decide to hike forward. Sheen is very mysterious, and Sheen is very weird. Sheen has been weird this whole series, right? And I get Sheen being mysterious, but it is one thing that keeps me from totally getting on board with his character, is that he's so close to the vest. We don't get really... He keeps saying, yeah, keep going towards the base, keep going towards the base. I'm like, was his intent all along to become part of Legion? Because again, that seems to contradict what he was doing with Rey. I don't know, unless he was... I don't know, right? We don't know. And then they end up... The moment that he's like, oh, I'll take Anju's place, I was like, yeah, no, they're showing up and he's taking their place so that he can go off and fight them, right? And that was the thing. And then he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go. My thing, though, with this whole battle scene is, I mean, one, he said they were gonna go off. He should have known they weren't. He calls them fools, but I'm like, you knew they weren't gonna leave you behind. Raiden just spent the entirety of the last episode finding you in a damn zoo. If he wasn't going to let you go through a dark tunnel by yourself, why do you think he was going to abandon you when you went off and fought the Legion? Like, what? Sheen, why are you doing this? Why do you think that? Come on now. Come on. Let's be sensible, right? And so then, yeah, he's like, well, if anybody's alive, ask them for help. And he's just like, I'll be a decoy. And then he just leaves them. And it's like, come on now. But my thing is, he fights them all, right? And so it's starting to snow. It's either snowing or those little bug things are like illuminating the sky. And they're like, we can't let Sheen go by himself. And so he's like, there's that ultra long range utility. So then we have this moment, right? There's this moment, the most interesting moment of this whole episode is when this one thing like rings in his ear, this new voice that says, I'll kill you. And it's this red-eyed, vampiric looking something that says, I'll kill you. And Sheen's like, what the fudge? So then we get this montage, right? And there's somebody in like a jacket that's like a military jacket. There's a military jacket, someone's in it, and there's people firing a gun and says, I'll kill you. And then from there, like Sheen's witnessing, it's somebody, they've been shot at that moment, and there's bullets showing going through them, the men, the women, and we can't see exactly what else is there. There's something like under sheets in that moment, and there's bloody footprints. There's something under sheets. There's bloody footprints. It says the men, the women, the children, the old. And there's something, there's the flag of Jihad, and there's people stamping over it. The nobles, the peasants. And then there's the flag of Jihad being held up in the air with bayonets. Anyone who threatens the princess. Who threatens the princess? And then there's somebody with their hands like in front of them. I'm assuming is the princess. Okay, so anybody who threatens the princess, I'm assuming is the princess the one from San Magnolia? Is the princess the one from the statue in the middle of Jihad where there's the man and there was the woman with like, she looked like a mage. She had the staff and everything. There's that. So is this somebody is this legionnaire that's a shepherd, I'm assuming? Are they somebody that had tried to protect the princess and something happened? Because the uncle made a comment back in a few episodes ago. The uncle made a comment that the San Magnolia, the queen that's there, she was destroyed by her own people. So is this somebody that bore witness to that? I don't know. But yeah, it's somebody on their knees and there's blood around them. Absolutely anyone, I will kill you. And then, okay, there's something else there. There's something else there. What is it? Okay, there's someone, they have like black hair. They kind of look like Sheen. But they look different too. They have dark hair and kind of look like him. But there's like a hand, there's like a metallic hand going towards them. Like the metallic hand that was going towards Ray. Is that the dad? Is that their dad? Is this guy there? Because we know from the picture in the house of Annette's house that their dad was dark haired. Is it him? Because then we see a girl getting lifted up, and is the princess? It looks like she has dark hair too. And it looks like maybe he's lifting her up. So is it his daughter, whoever this shepherd is? Okay, and then they keep firing. So clearly closest to base, the closer to base you are, the more likely you are to get hit in. But it's like, where are the long range firing things coming from? What is going on? And then yeah, Sheen ends up getting hit by it because his juggernaut stops working, and he says they're after my head, and that's when the others show up and start fighting. And I'm like, Sheen looks so pitiful there. And he's like, you're all fools. You can't beat the Legion with those weapons. And I'm like, but Sheen. And I hate those little, whatever those little mine things are, I hate them. And they're like coming after them. And I'm like, why doesn't he kill himself? Why doesn't Sheen shoot himself? I don't understand. Why would he let himself become part of Legion? Why? And he says, when I'm part of the Legion, whose name will I call out? And we see there's something there under the surface. There's something gleaming. And I guess it's his brother's juggernaut, or is it his? It's the one from his brother's juggernaut. He kept it with him. But yeah, he kept his brother's, the piece of him with him. But I'm like, why didn't he shoot himself? Why? I wanted to go back. Was he not able to? Because they all like corner him. And I'm like, could he not reach for it? Why couldn't he answer it? Ah! And then yeah, so of course Lena shows up. I like getting the confirmation the mechanic wasn't Albin. He just has been dyeing his hair, and his wife and daughter died on the battlefield as 86. And the question is, did Sheen tell him the truth when he said that their voices weren't out there, or did he just say that so that the mechanic wouldn't despair? Was the mom and daughter's voices out there, or was he telling the truth and they weren't, and that he wouldn't despair, right? It makes sense that he's an Albin and he's been staying there with each of the troops, each of the new recruits, making sure that they're supplied and that they're taken care of while they're there. And I like the fact that he said he's asked each and every one of them to kill him, and none of them will. So, but yeah, she goes through, and again, this is the 15th of October. So she goes through and sees everything. And I know I was joking about I wanted her just to hurry up and get there to help them, but I do like that she takes the time to go through where they've been and to go through the facilities, to see the flowers. Like, she's taking the moment and opportunity to go through and see each and every part that they saw and that they experienced, that she'd been talking about with them one-on-one over the past 6 months, that she'd been talking with them about. I appreciate that she went through and kind of saw everything, so that when they were talking, she could now understand where they were and what they were doing. Like, I really liked that part. And I was like, yes, her understanding where they were and what they went through. But then her seeing like the knife marks in the wood, all of that. Her seeing like the little gathering of the dolls, though, I was like, oh my God. And then she finds Whitey, or whatever the cat's name is. And I do like the twist that the cat was trying to get to the toy, but the toy was placed with the book. And then they have the note: if you went to the trouble of finding this, you're a crazy dumbass. Shuga. Yeah, Raiden. And I like they pointed that this is what we thought of you. And I wrote down everyone's name so that you would know who we are. I bet you're crying your eyes out because you can't tell which of us is which. Because yeah, that is the frustrating. And then I like that he gave the picture show who is who. And then it shows her like on there saying, would you leave flowers? And what does she say? Yeah, and it says, if one day you make it to our final destination, would you leave flowers for us? Like wherever you find us at. And then of course she's like, I can keep walking too. They believed that about me until the very end. Okay. And she seems like she's going somewhere. Like, she's like, let's go. Yeah, and then we see Shin's note to her. Until the moment... What does she say there? Until the moment when fate finally comes for me. And of course, we see the headless soldier now with the thing, which is reminiscent of Sheen. But what does she say there leading up to that? So I'm like, are you going to follow them and try to find them? What are you going to end up doing? But she has her hat and she has the cat toy. And she says, let's go. It says, what should I call you? I'll fight. Okay, I'll fight until the moment when fate finally comes for me. So I'm like, is she going to go after them into the unknown territory, or what? Or is she just going to go back to helping this group of 86 and that's it? What? Because then, yeah, it shows her on the train track there, and like she's going. And then, of course, we have Sheen's, the moment that Edie says, it calls, we have Sheen with his head, of course, lined up. And I'm like, why? And of course, the shadow of it looks like a blood splatter behind him. And then, of course, we see him waking up as a kid. And that's where he sees Ray. And Ray says, I'm sorry. And it's the moment back when Sheen was being choked by him at the window. He was being choked by him. And Ray had got pushed back against the thing. And that's when he tells him, he's like, I kept calling you. And I made you come all the way here. And then Sheen like brushes it off, saying, no, it's fine. And then he has the Skull Knight book, and he drops it. And when he drops it, he becomes the Skull Knight. He becomes the Skull Knight with the red cape. Huh. And he says, let's go. And then he grabs for Sheen's hand and like leads him away, like he's leading him to the great beyond, like they're dying, and that's it. And he like leaves him alone, leaves him behind, and then he's just there headless. Like Sheen got to pass into the afterlife with his brother, and they're off together. And meanwhile, Sheen's body is left there, and his head's now part of Legion. Here we go. I don't know. Oh, it makes me so sad because I don't want Sheen to die. And I don't want Sheen to become part of Legion. And, I don't know. There's still so many unanswered questions, too. Like, the fudge. There has to be a twist. There has to be something. And it had better blow my freaking mind. And there better be a twist. But if it's just he became part of Legion, it's going to be her fighting him in Legion now, then I don't know. But there has to be something to that flashback to what he saw. Like, the payoff had better been worth all this trauma is all I'm going to say. Because this episode like made me sick to my stomach. And if people are like, oh, it's so good because of how sad it is. I'm like, no, being traumatic and sad doesn't make it good. I don't know. I'm going to have to stop this discussion. I will keep going. I'm assuming whatever we get next episode, but y'all, the payoff had better been worth it, because this has been the most trying show I've had to watch. Ugh. It's just like, it's like Stockholm Syndrome at this point. I don't like shows that toy with your emotions and just hit you for no reason. So I'm like, there better be a reason, there better be a payoff, or I don't want to have to regret watching this show. Oh. We'll see. I'm gonna be patient. I'm gonna try. But that's all I got. So I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction and discussion in my pain, because Romania is in pain right now. And I'm going to go watch something happy to feel better. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll try to be back next week with episode 12 of 86. Peace.